Thank you ever so much for everybody for coming along this lunchtime and to hopefully participate, because it'd be great to get the feedback after I've just done the short presentation. I actually started when I was back working with the National Trust, and we had a new entrance project running then. And I think it's always an area I have been very interested in, and it sort of sparked that there needed to be more happening for new entrants at that time. That was way back in 2006, and somehow I managed to fall into that opening that was there for new entrants, and to start to get to the point where I was able to actively participate and deliver things for new entrants of all ages, I have to say, coming through into the industry. So I'll just try and share the screen. Here we go. So first of all, just to give you an introduction to Fresh Start Land Enterprise Centre. Some of you I know have been well aware of us. As I say, the first Fresh Start academies started back in 2006. But over those years, we've actually developed into this community interest company called Fresh Start Land Enterprise Centre. We're there to encourage thinking around land and business entrepreneurs, uptake of training, development management, marketing skills, and innovative ways of working together. And within that, obviously, the new entrants are a key part of that audience that we actually deliver for. We have 4 key areas of delivery. We have business academies, mentoring, land partnerships, which is our way of looking at unlocking business and land and people working together. And off the back of that, we created the land partnership service, which was actually our matching service that we brought in. What I'm going to do is to give a quick breakdown of all those areas for you. What I'd like to stress at this point is that all of our services and everything that we've done over the years is available for anyone age 18 and over. We have no upper age limit, and that we very much encourage people from farming and non-farming backgrounds to participate. We found this a huge strength and of great importance to us, and hopefully that will come out over the next few slides. So the rough Fresh Start timeline that we had is 2006 was launched the first business academies, and in those sort of ran through in a whole variety of different things all over England, and we continued those through into 2012. We actually launched the first Fresh Start Land Partnerships Handbook, which was hoping people to work in joint ventures and ways of working together. 2014, we created the entity we now have, Fresh Start Land Enterprise Centre, and we brought together 2 or 3 small initiatives to create this wider one. So we were dealing with everyone from new entrants right the way to through succession, but very much innovation wherever we possibly could. We updated the handbook in 2015. And from then until 2018, we actually had support and financing to run the first pilot for England for a land matching service, which was absolutely crucial. We wanted to try it out and see what we could learn from that. And then from 2017 to 2020, we've been sort of improving the knowledge, the learning around that, and seeking national funding to take the things that we found a little bit further. And at the moment, from 2021 now, we're redeveloping the services, but we're also, what was the handbook, we're now working with the Agricultural Productivity Task Force, and we're rewriting that to be very much centred as well around business models handbook as well, and that should be coming out later on in the summer. So just giving a quick run through of what the business academies have delivered over the years. We've had them as generic business, farming business academies, through to sector specific, so beef, sheep, pigs, all the rest of it. And what we do with all of them is concentrate on business, on farm business. We know people come with such passion and skill sets, or maybe learning those as they're coming through from the new entrant point of view. But if they're going to go into business, then they need to have these skill sets to run alongside. So we look at business planning, sources of finance. We do sort of mock applications for tenancies, diversification, learning about farm payment schemes and grants, and working with land agreements and marketing as well. And we will tailor make those, particularly if we're running the sector specific ones. We always feel it's really important that the people that have come on those academies meet the professionals, other farmers, industry professionals, accountants, bankers, whoever it might be. And they get to see what these people are like, what they're doing, and the types of things they're asking for in reality. that can be quite a myth if we just sit in the classroom and keep them in that environment and we don't let them experience the world for real. And we found this has been one of the strongest things of delivering with the academies over the years. And actually all of those that participate and help us train from all the different parts of the industry thoroughly enjoy it and get as much out of it as those that are attending do. We often put the meetings in the evenings to fit with other obligations. We run a business planning exercise of some sort, so we can put a lot of this into action alongside with farm businesses as well. And we will challenge and discuss and debate. So you've got positives, opportunities, and those challenges that they might encounter along their journey, wherever they might be. We like to provide the support, knowledge transfer, and that between the group is absolutely huge. It started off initially just for new entrants. It's still very much a strong element for new entrants within the business academies, but we have many people coming in of all ages that we class as new entrants. They might have been working in industry and now want to set up in business of their own. That mix of age, backgrounds, is massive, and I cannot underestimate what that brings to the group and the learning that happens from that as well. The whole course is accredited by UK Rural Skills, and those that have been on the course can then offer to step forward, and we can offer to put them in touch with farmer mentors or business mentors that they might wish to help their businesses through. So something else that we've become very specialist in over the years is land matching and joint ventures. It is something absolutely key to us that we know there's never going to be any more land invented. What we have is already out there. We have to be far more clever with what we're doing with that land. And so we set off back, as I say, sort of 2014, 2015, looking at this land matching element. It would sometimes be that whole opportunity, that piece of land, some with buildings, some may have accommodation, some may not, right through to different business opportunities that landowners and business entrepreneurs wanted to offer through to farming. And in joint ventures, we were then looking at that running in a whole variety of schemes, perhaps from contracting, share farming, partnerships, right the way through to tenancies. All of those can be classed as joint ventures, but both sides need to gain and not just one side. So the land partnership service was our matching service and our pilot that we put together. The core of where we wanted people to work together from new entrants, land entrepreneur point of view, working with landowners and those that could offer opportunity is absolutely sort of set out within our land partnerships handbook. And if you go onto the website, you can download the second edition at the moment from that free of charge. So we're looking at the land partnership service per se. We knew the land was out there. We needed to put people together. If I'm honest, when we started it up, we thought that the biggest demand would be those because of the conversations we'd had in the past from new entrants and others. We just do not have those opportunities. And we thought we were going to have not enough opportunities and too many people almost coming on board looking for that. At long last, land might become available. In fact, totally the opposite happened. Which was a real insight for us at the time, that we had exceptionally good conversations with landowners and with land agents that wanted to discuss what they might be able to offer through to new entrants and to others. And we actually had hesitation in the people that were looking for those opportunities signing up. They did come through, and by the end of the pilot, sort of 18 months later, we had 50-50, which was great for both sides. But we did find that although many people had this aspiration to run a business and to have the access to that land, that many of them were hesitant because when it actually came to pulling those agreements together, having those discussions, there was, should we say, variable sort of on the business skills level and what they needed to create as that package to offer to work with somebody else in whatever type of agreement it might be. And that was something we'd work with in the academies, but it became really apparent that people wanted it, but they weren't quite ready at that stage when we suddenly said, here we are, here's the opportunities. So massive lessons learnt in that stage there. We know the opportunities are out there. The more we work with landowners, with land agents, the supporting organisations, national NGOs or whatever it might be, we can help open up those doors and get even more opportunities out there. But as much as we do that, we have become, as the best way I could put it, a dating service for land. And it's something that we need to find the right match and agreements together. You can, on paper or computer, pull those matches as to who it might be, but you really do need to find that you are creating new human relationships, and people have got to work together, and that cannot be shortcut at any level. And if things don't seem right, don't seem to be going in the right direction, it's actually a strength to say, I'm not going forward with it, rather than saying, I've just do it because this opportunity was there. Business skills, as I say, absolutely key. And is also having to be realistic on both sides of what might be able to work and pull together. There is a real art of compromise in anything that comes to land matching, but it shouldn't be at the detriment to either party. But discussions most definitely have to go through in great detail. So who are those potential land partners? So we've got landowners. They might be wanting to look at succession, stepping down. They might not have family to take on, or nobody's interested currently but want to maintain the asset. They may be looking to even sell up. We've got new landowners that might not have the necessary skills but would like to bring people in to come and help manage the land. Active farmers who wish to diversify, and also those that might want to offer this sort of, let's try something different and innovative with the business and bring new people in. Estate owners and managers, we know we have identified gaps in their system, and there's also land owning trusts and charities that have a great deal to offer as well. Those on the other side, we know there's young farmers with training and experience, and they want to set up the business, but they're lacking that land and capital. There is, as I alluded to earlier, that experienced farm workers or land managers, they've gone through part of their career already. Now's the time to start their own business, and do not underestimate that sector as new entrants. The 30, 40 area, 50 age plus, there is a lot of people interested in moving into the industry within their own business. We've also got related industries and communities or groups and consumers that want to pull together and get access to land. What are the benefits of all this? There's just a few ideas, there's many more, but we've got infrastructure sharing, practical sharing, business mentoring, the sharing of risk even. New ideas can come into businesses. Succession issues may be addressed to it. And it could be a part-time or a full-time route for new entrants to come into this farming world and delivery of business as well. So everything's there, it's all very positive. But as I say, it has to be balanced, that people are realistic in what they are trying to achieve, but also be aspirational as best they can. So our land partnerships approach that we created back in 2012 is very simple, and this is what we ask people on both sides to consider. We want you to take stock and decide where you actually are in your journey. So whether you're a landowner, whether you're that new entrant, what are you looking for? What do you want? What assets, what skills can you bring to any potential joint venture that you're going to go into, or land that you might want to access? And you have to be very honest with yourself as to what is flexible and what are absolute lines in the sand that you know, these are my definitive and that's what I need. We then have to create that right match. The matching service is one way of doing it. Networking, talking to people, and you will occasionally see adverts out elsewhere through other organisations, obviously on social media or whatever it might be. We then ask people to go to the kitchen table, if I'm honest, and set and talk at what an agreement might look like. And that needs to be balanced and delivering for both sides. Talk as much as you can, bring up the issues that you've got worries and concerns on, because if you don't at that point and you go straight to the solicitors or you haven't thought that through, that's where it can get very expensive if they start helping in those conversations. You need to have had those pre-conversations first with yourself and seeing if you can actually work this new innovation and land matching opportunity together. Then you select the best legal framework that will help you deliver what you want to set up. And then there's obviously review. Once something's set up, you do need to review, see it set for purpose. And we do see many people that work in this area in joint ventures and new entrants, that once they've got the knack of it, they can actually have 2 or 3 different types of matching joint ventures going on at the same time. So it does work. It's very creative, and really it's only limited by your imagination and working through what will actually deliver a good business. What have we learned from all of this? We definitely need more clear information on joint ventures. It does provide a lot of opportunities, and for those coming in, from new entrants coming in, but also it provides a lot from a retirement perspective as well. So we need, I always call it like a seesaw, a balance that needs to be had. It lets us use the knowledge and expertise already farming in the industry. We can have almost like this informal mentoring that can go on in these processes. And as I say, be aware of new entrants coming in from all different directions and all different ages. The opportunities are out there, and if anything, the opportunities have been growing over the last few years from when we first set this up, even sort of 8-9 years ago. It is there, but do never ever underestimate the time it takes to bring these together and for them to work. If you put the time and effort in, then good joint ventures can work really, really well. Some other areas that we've been working with over the years, and I'd just like to highlight for new entrants particularly, is the Newbie Project. This has actually been a European funded project over the last 4 years. It's just into its final year. And this has been looking at new entrants all over Europe. There's 9 countries that are involved actively within the project. The links are on there, and obviously you can have access to this afterwards as well. But if you go onto the Newbie Academy, the second website address there, that tells you, and you can go and see what's happening in other European countries and find out what projects they've run for new entrants and gain information from that point. The top link there is from the Hutton up in James Hutton Institute up in Scotland, but they are actually leading on the UK delivery element for the Newbie project. I'm actually the UK network facilitator for them. And we're pulling together at the moment a toolkit specifically for the UK. We're working with our neighbours in Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales as well. And we're bringing in a whole set of links and resources together. It will never be the definitive one. It's one of these things that's got to be constantly monitored, but it is the starting point. And that toolkit will be available for any new entrant to go to and find the links. And it's actually put in an umbrella of everything from sort of business startup, business planning, all of those sorts of things that you might want to bring together. And you can then sort of click on those umbrella sections and then go to the next set of information from that. So just to be aware on that, and much more is going up over the next couple of months online as well. So new entrants, just as a sort of a summary round really, that where we're going here. We need to encourage people from all backgrounds, farming, non-farming. Everybody comes with sets of skills and they're all highly beneficial. And often we found with those from non-farming backgrounds, they are very open to doing things differently and to taking on new business, innovative ways of working. You must have a correct mindset. I can't stress that enough from a new entrant's point of view, but also from the farmers or landowners they might be working with. Go in there with the correct mindset, with honesty, be realistic, and lots more can be achieved. We need to encourage that innovation and much greater use of joint ventures within England. We've not got there yet by any means, and we need to balance the worries and the risks of the industry that they consider around these joint ventures with what we can absolutely achieve and what could take the industry forward. Business skills are absolutely paramount. We need them as much as practical farming skills. Please do not underestimate it. So we need to make sure we give support for those as well. Everybody going into this, new entrants must be prepared to continue learning. Work your way up. You might have your ultimate goal, say, to perhaps get a tenancy, but you might have to start off very small and part-time, perhaps with a flying flock or herd or something like that. And slowly you build up the portfolio of your financial sides of things, of running a business. And that helps give you all that experience to get to that ultimate goal. Networking, absolutely invaluable for everybody. And also, don't expect the opportunities to come to you. You have to be proactive. And I think there's been a sort of a shift that everything will easily be put there. There is still this element of having to go out there and look and see what might be suitable for you. The other thing, as I just alluded to back with the newbie side of things, is there's information out there, but it's in many different areas for new entrants. So we need to improve the signposting, a dedicated portal. Newbie will achieve some of that. It won't achieve everything. perhaps we need to be looking at a bespoke new entrants handbook and a set of checklists that people can actually go through to help them from coming into new entrants side of things. And finally, this is just some areas for development that we've picked up over the years. Farmers and landowners need to know the options. We need to provide that information in a far more better way and provide that support for them to take these other options. Those looking to start at the businesses need to find the access to land and the business opportunities. It is there, but how do they find it? We need to work with supporting industry professionals and landowners, land agents, farmers and land entrepreneurs. We don't need to be defaulting to what we've always done. We need to encourage people to think differently. It's starting to happen, but we have an awful lot more work to do on this. And finally, which I know Henry's nose is going to come from me, access to a proper land matching service for England. Even though we've run the pilot and we found out an awful lot over that time, we do need our own for England. It is happening in Scotland, in Wales and Northern Ireland. And we are now actually falling behind because we cannot offer an equivalent service within England. The demand is there. The landowners, I think you will find, will get actively involved as we found before. So it would be great to see if we could get that land matching service up and running again. That's sort of a quick summary for me, but happy to take questions from anyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alison. There's a huge amount in there that I'm sure people will be interested to ask further about. I love your phrase for new entrants starting with a flying flock, which I hadn't heard that one before. It creates quite a nice image, doesn't it? So we've already got hands up. Hopefully you can all see that it's possible to electronically raise your hand, and that's the easiest way for me to see that you'd like to ask a question or make a comment. This is a sort of two-way conversation rather, and comments and interactions, responses, reflections, all very much welcomed. So I will start with Sarah Palmer.
Thanks, Henry. Thank you very much, Alison. And I work for the National Federation of Young Farmers Clubs. Alison, I know you know the history that goes back a long, long way about our mutual interest for support for new entrants. So I just put a question in the chat. Figures of successful matches. I know there are lots of plans to do more in the future, but also the lessons learned from the pilot matching service. I think it's been really interesting having all the presentations because, as you quite rightly say, there are established services for new entrants and existing farmers. And what are the magic ingredients to make this work? Because there's been an awful lot of work put into it to date, and it's very necessary. Thanks.
I think when we first started off, we were on a par. The only one that has really been up and running at that time was Ireland, and we went over to Ireland to learn what we could from that system. Wales came on board, and I know Aina has already done a presentation for the group as well. We were sort of on a level and developing everything, and we had to set the system up from absolutely zero. We created all our own software, the system, the matching, the questions that needed to be collated, the information we needed to gain from the new entrants, the land entrepreneurs coming in, and also from the landowners that were offering it as well. I cannot understate, and as I say, I've worked with Sarah for many years, the amount of work that went into that, and trying to also put that personal, that relationship element onto it as well. You can put the best parameters and format together. Humans are still humans, and you have to work through that as well. What has worked, as I say, we know there's definite demand. Even post-pilot, I'm still getting constant emails and phone calls from people saying, please, is the service coming back online? We really need it. We are in constant discussions, as we know, as an industry, farmers looking at succession. We know something else has just come to the table now, but perhaps if people want to take payments to step down. We just need to get people to stop and to think and to act differently. And that is quite a big shift in mindset, I think, than any of us realised. it's an awful lot of education and training to let people know that these elements are out there, and then taking that and converting that into opportunities. So the base is there. We can definitely help on both sides. There is a real element of caution I will put in from farmers that might have something to offer. Most of them absolutely fine. Is that this is not access to cheap labour or someone to come and do the work for you. This is access to people coming into business. And we must treat everybody with great respect and as business partners within anything that is around land matching, whatever type of final agreement it goes into. So both sides have to be honest, both sides have to pull together and lay the cards on the table. But with that, we can really develop it. It would not take much at the moment to pick it up, shake the dust off it a little bit and get it up and moving again. Could refine the systems more. We know what was going to work. We've also worked with our colleagues all the way around in the other matching services within the UK. And we know that within England, people will travel for the opportunities, perhaps more than they would do in Wales. I know Aina has commented on that in the past. But realistic, the opportunities are out there. We've just got to start putting people together.
Just one more quick question. Would you consider sort of future collaboration to actually help the system?
In what way, Sarah? As I say,
collaboration with another organisation.
It's possible. Well, obviously, we created a national advisory group to liaise and to sort of inform us on the whole of the land matching service, which had obviously from yourselves, NFU, TFA, RICS, CAAV. We had all of those people. CLA were on there as well.
No, I meant on the actual sort of practical side of
on the practical
the service. Yeah, I mean, I know, I'm aware obviously of what happened in the past.
Yeah.
It's just what makes it practically work, whether it's finance, whether it's manpower, whether it's awareness, communication, because that's the financial consideration. If it's not communicated effectively, if there aren't enough people around.
And that was the thing, you know, the sheer volume of work and what we created with the limited funds we had at the time, we did considerably well, but that it does need, and that's why I've actually put a stop on it to now, in that it has to be delivered, whether it's in collaboration with somebody else or whatever it is, it has to be the full package service, fully financed and supported, because I would not be happy at going forward, you know, whether it's me, with anybody else, whatever it is within the industry, it's not for us, it's for those that are coming in and for those that want these opportunities. It has to, if we can get the package together, the finance and the support correct, then yes, we look at everything. I think the only thing we have to consider is the neutrality of it, and that is very key with getting as many people in to come and get engaged within it. It has to be a neutral platform.
Thank you. Susan.
Hi there, it's Susan Twining, Chief Land Use Policy Advisor at the CLA. And I think maybe Sarah's kind of asked my question already, because I think it was your last bullet point on your last slide. I was just going to ask about what is actually needed from whom in order to kickstart Fresh Start and to make it viable again. And I guess it was maybe a question about the business model. You know, is it, you know, how does it fund itself? Do people register and pay? You know, how does that all work? So it was partly about what's the business model, and does it need seed funding in order to get going, or is it something that will continually need funding? Is behind
the main funding. It could potentially be whether it become totally self-funding. It would have to be reviewed through on the model that's created. We charged at the time £50 for a landowner or a business entrepreneur that wanted to have an opportunity to offer to put it up onto the site, and we charged £30 for a new entrant to register or that land entrepreneur to register for a whole year. So to sort of to be quite honest, in reality, all that covered was some support towards admin at the time for putting it all onto the system, because it takes quite a while. But beyond that, I know in other countries as well, they've managed to offer some support to perhaps help create the legal agreements or have other advice centres they can turn to. We don't have that equivalent currently within England, but we could look at building up a model that, you know, we can bring all of those in. It does come down to the the professional indemnity, the various other things that we have to cover of who takes that hit. And I know when we were working with the National Advisory Group, they decided that we have so many professional support people giving this information to the industry that we would help put them together and then help highlight and send them over to people that could help create those legal agreements or those extra bits, because we just don't have the equivalent of a Farming Connect for them to work the process through at the time. So our model is different. Whether I still think there has to be some payment of some sort for buy-in, and I think for Wales there is a small payment for them just to sort of get involved from that one there, but it's needed. The model can always be revamped, but I think the core heart of it is there for what we could pick up quite easily, and with that right funding to put enough people behind the scenes and that liaison and counselling service, for want of a better word, that hand holding that's needed, that's where the resources have got to go.
Thank you. Rob, is your question about the land matching as well, or different?
A bit of everything, probably. I do remember being at Chatsworth for a Fresh Start launch at some point, and somebody did bump into me the other week and said, I did listen to you at that Chatsworth conference, but I had to leave early, so I missed the end of your speech. My biggest thing is probably, how do you stop, you know, the sort of established routes that everybody goes down from just peddling the same old stuff? You know, I've been at Fresh Start stuff, and we've been involved with it in Dodd & Co, where I'm a partner, since 2012. We did things in Kendal and stuff, and I've been involved with the CLA doing share farming leaflets and how that works. Whenever you go to land agents or you speak to land agents who basically control this part of the economy, they all revert to sell the farm, create an FBT, or do it on a grasslet short term, few hundred quid. And you know, they all work, but most of them don't even consider contract farming, share farming. Even when they do, they're all looking for people with plenty of equity that can start quite easily. And actually, you know, contract farming and share farming and joint ventures offer a route in for people with very little equity. You know, I've got two guys who are in their 30s who are probably worth over £1 million, who started with nought. Yeah. And you know, those sorts of things do work, but it's how you stop when farmers, you know, ring the local auction and say, I'm thinking of retiring. How do you get that auction to sort of think, well, actually, you know, you could just see whether there's anyone on a land matching scheme that would do it, rather than just going down the default, we'll, you know, sell it or put it on an FBT sort of thing. And then you're automatically looking for people with equity, which, you know, at a stroke gets rid of a whole host of people who would like to be in but don't have enough to start with that sort of setup. As you said, you know, they need to grow slowly.
I think, Robert, it's one of the biggest things that we found. We obviously knew, you know, as I say, the system is slightly different for other countries as well, because we have the land agent, you know, layer probably, you know, within our system. And I've been very lucky over the last few years to be invited to speak, as, you know, at the RICS agricultural conferences, along with one or two other people as well, with the Agricultural Law Association, everything else. And when we had the pilot going, there was real momentum, if I'm honest, when I was out and delivering that, for people to look. We had very strong pushback, if I'm honest, and which is fair enough. You know, let's question this, let's see if it can work, how can it work? But we were definitely getting several people coming forward and saying to us, we like this, but in fact we still need to know more about it, and because we don't know how the agreement might settle out, the things that we might do, in fact that it might actually take a bit more time than perhaps just defaulting to an FBT or whatever it might be. How do we do that? So there is a knowledge transfer, a training need, whatever you want to call it, from the land agent, but all the supporting professionals. I know you've absolutely been excellent in supporting everything that we've done, and working in different environments and things, but there is still that it's too big a risk, it's quicker to do what we know, and this really has to now shift very, very rapidly if we're going to get things to move on. We had the opportunity to create a really vibrant agricultural industry with people coming, going, supporting them, and we have to make those in the middle, and all of us that are trying to help them actually see they have choice. And I think one of the hardest things I ever went to was a farmers meeting one day, and the gentleman had spent years building up his business and he's herd and everything, and he was a single gentleman, and he just said, I've got no option but to sell. And I said, you do have options? He said, no, there's no options for me. And that, if anything, inspired me more to try and get on with the land matching service, because I knew there was options. He was just not aware of it. So then it comes down to farmer awareness and all the other routes that we've got to go to as well. But we have to work with all the servicing professionals to the industry. It's key.
Okay. Thanks. Kate, you asked a question in the chat. Would you like to put it to Alison?
Yeah, thanks very much, Alison. I thought that was great, and a really good summary of what's already going on. That I hadn't been aware of that Newbie project until today, so that's really helpful. You were talking about like the next stage after you've done the land matching and then needing to draw up a legal agreement, and you're talking about dealing with lots of different people in different areas who might be available to do that. I was wondering whether you'd looked at having like a grant for people to help them with some money towards drawing up a professional agreement, or any specific training that they might need on that. We've done that through our local project to help young people with business support, and I wondered if that was an option. And then I've also got like a follow-up question, which was about, you were talking about, and Rob was talking about helping land agents and the facilitators look at, be educated and be aware of other options. And I was thinking in the Welsh example and the Northern Irish example, they sort of had a sort of close team and they were more sort of local, whereas if it's going to be England wide, you're going to have different specialisms in different areas, and that might be more complicated, and I wondered how that had worked out on the pilot.
If I do the sort of the payment, the money, if there's some sort of grant or support, first of all. So yes, again, this was a key thing. We've tried to learn so much more of the other matching services. We've sort of had private meetings between us all, if you know what I mean, behind the scenes, as well as sort of doing the large conference that Rob attended as well. I think it would be a great way if there was access to that funding at some point to help create that agreement. Possibly, and this is, but the landowners may be in a better financial position to do that. But I know from Wales that they can actually access, I think it's €300 each partner within any sort of joint venture to help pull that legal agreement together, from a cost point of view. To make sure things run right and that people understand there, then I think if we could help find that support money, be it from DEFRA, be it wherever, but that sort of grant money to make sure that the right legal structures are put together would be a key help in people actually moving this forward. Yeah, it really would. Okay, where that quite comes from, but I would love to see that achieved equivalent, if we possibly can do it. I'm sorry, Kate, the second part was?
Mainly about sort of local, the value of local networking and local skills.
Yeah, so when we did, we had the National Advisory Group pulled together, we said, did we run the pilot, say, just in an area, perhaps your area for Northwest or whatever it might be, or did we do the whole of England? We actually decided to go with the whole of England because we felt at the time, because we are so much more sort of scattered of where the enterprises and the sectors are, that people should have a choice if they wanted to move to that opportunity or not, rather than perhaps it just being within their locality. And it was also probably a good test for us to see if people were willing to do that within the pilot. And I have to say, probably a good probably a good 40–50% were very happy if the right opportunity was there, they would up and move. Now, obviously, it became paramount on family circumstances and things, but it was not a real deal breaker within the England things that if the opportunity is there, they would shift that for that one. As I say, we just don't have otherwise. Within Wales, they immediately default back to Farming Connect advisors, and we haven't got that system that the farmers are bought into within England. So it is then having to come over to that private end, or us or other people here or other organisations providing that intermediate sort of level of information so that they can then go on to that legal agreement.
Can I just do a follow-up on that, actually, Alison, because I think it's a really interesting question, because we're thinking about having these sort of incubator centres around the country, who potentially also, obviously, would manage relationships in terms of facilitating progression, know the local landowners who are interested in, and so on. And I wonder, it seems to me could there be sort of two elements to this sort of land matching? One is obviously a database and information and the hard stuff. And then there's also the soft stuff in terms of who knows who and who can sort of facilitate that sort of connection and all that thing. Do you think it could work if there were that sort of softer stuff happen more locally? But of course, you would allow people come in and find places, but then the facilitation happened as part of a sort of hub, as opposed with some sort of national database people could register in. Do you imagine that might work?
The two levels would have been our ultimate dream to have achieved, Henry, but if I'm honest. So yes, you have that central one of where you can bring that information in, do some matching, perhaps create a short list, because we always sort of only introduce people with both their agreements. You know, everything was sort of anonymous to that point and how it goes. But our ultimate one was to have either working with other organisations or to get our own people on the ground within local areas, so that you have those hubs to keep those conversations and you've got somebody on the ground. If you take John McAllister over in Northern Ireland, John has Northern Ireland, but you could perhaps equate that to one of the very large counties or a region within England. And there's nothing better, that the best way we could possibly do is to get out on farm or to create those meetings, facilitate those meetings on a local level. That would achieve so much more if we were able to do that. So yes, there's two levels, quite correct.
Well, I think we should definitely seek to deliver the dream, if we can. Just to follow up, one of the things you said very earlier in your presentation was that you sort of got people together, but then suddenly they blinked at the last moment, or when the reality of the challenge of taking all this on came to them, and that's how I sort of read it anyway. Yeah. They just went, oh, I don't know if I can do it. Was it too early? Were you going too early in their development? What would you do differently, do you think, to avoid that sort of, leaving the bride at the the marriage, sort of that last minute sort of hiccup?
There's a couple of things. We used to, with the business academies over the years, we've called them confidence building academies, and it's quite often that people have quite often got the skills or just need them, polishing, so they're where they need to be. But it's having that confidence to actually put it into action. Well, probably all of us here have had thoughts of ideas or something we would like to do, either for our work or hobbies or whatever it might be. It can actually be quite a big step to actually take that up in person to do that. So we need to install confidence, but we do need to install those business skills. That was the key area lacking, if I'm honest, Henry, that people got to a certain point, but where they'd suddenly got to put it down and within a more formal environment, then the dream and the business skills didn't quite match. And that was a big step for them to take that. Those that have perhaps run very small enterprises, building their way up, perhaps as a sort of whilst they were doing other work or whatever, those people were far more prepared to take that next step and get into the matching. And also those that have been working in the industry for a long while, knew their worth, knew what they wanted to do, had been thinking through for years and years, were far more ready to take that next opportunity as it came along.
Thank you. Susan, is this on land matching, or we've got another question in the chat? Was this a follow-up?
It's to do with, it's just to do with share farming, really. You know, Alison mentioned, you know, that it's too easy to go down the standard routes, and it was really a question of what can we do with share farming. It's been around for a long time. It's actually quite well established, but it's really not the uptake of it. I don't know if we know what the uptake of share farming is, and I'm just wondering if there's anything that could be done to make it more sort of 21st century. So I don't know, some rebranding. I know in Ireland they have sort of like a dairy share, you know, and it becomes a thing that people recognise that is for a purpose. And whether there's opportunities around that for different types of share farming that might be more common. And then the second one was that you mentioned as well about making sure that this isn't some quasi-employment contract. This is about, so one route people can do is take on a member of staff to help with their business. So is that another route to help new entrants get footing in a business by actually working, you know, not worrying about the business bit, but actually going through the employment route and saying, well, you know, performance or some stake in the business. Is that another way that could be developed?
Yeah, well, I'll take that one first, actually. So yes, it's, if people are not certain what they want to do or where they might want to go in the future, then I think the employment route, employed or self-employed, whichever it might be, but sort of building that experience and knowledge is absolutely key for them to sort of pull together what their you know, greater thoughts might be of where they might want to go long term. So yes, building up that experience and knowledge is the best way for them to do, to start that out and gain that from people that they're working with, and get mentoring, anything they can come in, join other associations, whatever that can help bring that information together for them. So yeah, totally a very valid route to come in. Share farming, I think sort of some of the things that we found on feedback over the time, particularly from landowners, there is almost a hangover of myth, if I'm honest, from the 1980s, 1990s, of when share farming came to this country, and a little bit more from the New Zealand side of things, and it didn't always work. And in fact, some people can always quote somebody else that had a bad experience with it. That was still hanging on, if I'm honest, with some of the landowners, that they were a little bit worried about it and what did it really mean. People also don't understand share farming fully, that it is two independent businesses working together. And I know you've done your excellent guides over at CLA, which we've you know, send people to all the time. So we have to shake off a little bit of history, if I'm honest, from what we've had there. And the best thing we can do is show working case studies of people that have cracked it. And like all of these things, it has to be revised. But as we know, share farming can revise, be reviewed, and the share percentage can alter, you know, as it needs to go through within any business there. So we need to get these case studies. We need to get these farmers talking that have done it, and it's working within dairy, within livestock. You know, I know there's some within arable as well, and show people that it can become an everyday thing. And the key positives, the key challenges they might encounter, give them information. You know, power is knowledge. It gives them that, helps them go through and move it through for share farming. We've just got to be far more vocal and show it as a real option to people.
Thanks, Alison. Fiona, you put in the chat, could there be a fresh start advisory tie-in with any early BPS retirement payments? Could you expand and explain what your thinking there was?
Well, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I think I'm probably the most naive and junior one on this call. Forgive
I'm sure
me.
you're not.
No, please. I actually come from a background in medicine rather than agriculture, but I'm doing an agriculture degree at SIUC in Scotland, and I'm very interested in new entrant work, and I am planning to become a land entrepreneur. I'm absolutely thrilled with all the things that Alison has been presenting, and it's very impressive. Just with my kind of medical hat on, in terms of what you're talking about, Mr. Lewis and Gore, is the management of change, and how do you change farming behaviour? And I was just thinking that perhaps there is a consultation out there, as I understand it, whereby possibly people could take, if it is agreed, a lump sum of several years of basic farm payment. And when you are thinking about taking your pension in just Civvy Street, if you're going to do pension drawdown, there is a sort of mandatory requirement that you actually get proper financial advice before you do something complicated like drawdown. I was just wondering if you took that example from the financial services industry and brought it into agriculture and say, okay, we've got to encourage people to change. Therefore, if you take the money, your lump sum from the government in the future, there is a requirement to have a consultation with an advisor, somebody along like Fresh Start, who could say, these are all your options. So that's one way of educating and actually getting, when people are going to get money, they tend to focus and they tend to listen. That's certainly what GPs do. And the second thing is that I took very much on board what Alison was saying in terms of maintaining relationships and very, very novel businesses. May I suggest that there might be an argument for actually having intensive mentoring for both the land entrepreneur and also the new farmer, because if you offer support and mentoring at a time of very great change, maybe monthly, maybe 3 monthly, just someone to hold people's hand, they tend to comply more with change. And that's just with my GP hat on of how things have been managed in primary care. So it's just a small suggestion.
No, that's really interesting, as you say, and we often found when we had the mentoring service, to sort of go back with those academies, and also, there was elements we could offer through the land partnership service as well, that it was getting people at the right time with that support. And as you say, it is that point of change that somebody is there helping feed in the extra knowledge, the questions to ask almost of people, not to give the answers, but these are the things you have to consider. And it's where you put that in at the right point. And some people they said, no, we don't need it at this point. And there was others that it would have been lovely to sort of say, I really think you need this now. It will be really beneficial to you. So yes, that review and access to mentoring, and we would need to build up that mentoring base as well from, say, the industry professionals, the farming community. There's so many different ways, but there's a lot of people really willing to help. We need to get hold of them and really put them in there to supply for the whole industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Fiona. It's great to have people from outside medicine and other ways coming in and bringing different thinking, which is great. Rob.
I was just going to come back on Susan's comment earlier about how do you get share farming more readily acceptable. I'm a big fan of share farming. I think it ticks lots of boxes, but you don't see much of it in its true sense. And I always describe it as like partnership light. It's like a diet partnership. It's almost a partnership, but it's not. And most people that make them work end up in partnership or in fully blown joint venture companies or whatever. So to a large extent, sort of share farming in the UK seems like a stepping stone. But one of the big drawbacks with share farming that I see, and particularly looking after some large landowners that have who are looking for joint venture partners, they will not do share farming because share farming splits income, and most of those big landowners are trying to protect capital tax relief through business property relief, and if they lose income, that's a problem for them. They need trade income to shore up the waters everywhere. So share farming is not the sort of go-to product for some of the big farmers, which is sad really, but it's all driven by capital tax rules, which presumably, unfortunately, Henry hasn't got any control or oversight or room to maneuver and suggest any changes. So
we work as one in government and we all listen to each other, and I'm sure we can discuss whatever with whoever, but yeah, it is those obviously have a lot of big things, other factors that shape those as well. Sue, we've got very little time, so I just want to, Sue's quickly put her hand up, so I'll just bring her in as well before letting you, Alison, say some final words.
Hi.
We finish. Hi, Sue.
Hi, thank you. I'm Sue English. I work for Addington Fund, which is one of the farming charities, but I also used to run a tenanted farm and was a first generation farmer at the time. And share farming, to me, the downside of share farming seemed to be that it could just spread the costs of other neighbouring landowners who had a son and who had all the machinery, and it was a good way of spreading their machinery costs by going onto the farms. It didn't necessarily encourage new entrants. But I just wondered about, and there may be one in existence, an apprenticeship programme to get farmers, rather than mentoring, because mentoring really does then still leave the young farmer to get on and farm, but have somebody to speak to. But what about trying to encourage people who are running good, efficient farms to actually take on apprenticeships, so they get an idea of what they're letting themselves in for? Because I think, Alison, you alluded that there are a lot of youngsters who have this dream of farming but don't actually understand the harsh realities of it. And is that something that could be encouraged more, or is it already set up?
Farming apprenticeships are out there. There's been different apprenticeship schemes, some regional, some national over the years. It seems to have gone in peaks and troughs, if I'm honest, from the apprenticeship delivery model that are going through. So they are still out there. You will find individual farmers who say, yes, I'll offer apprenticeships. If I take a local one to me, Dart in Derbyshire, they help put apprentices through onto farms and let them, see if that's what they really want to do and which areas they might want to work in. It's probably, and it's a discussion for another day, but it is this career element, and seeing farming as a worthwhile career is something that we've still been incredibly poor at within this country as well. So we need to show them that they take that route, and apprenticeships are encouraged and perhaps improved, that offer as well, that people can see that as a valid route to take. With education and work side by side, there's nothing better than learning on the job alongside some additional education as well. So I'm all for apprenticeships, definitely, if we can up that offer as well.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. We have run out of time now. So I'd just like to thank Alison very much for sharing a lot of your hard-gained wisdom over the years, which has, I think, been incredibly useful. And I hope other people have found it as well. And I really hope you've enjoyed this. And thank you for giving up your time and coming inside and out of the lovely sunny weather to join in. Okay, look forward to seeing you next week, and we'll circulate the recording with the slides. Thank you very much.